Hello and welcome to our podcast on the hyphen. This is a relatively important piece of punctuation that students often have confusion and questions about, so we just wanted to see if we can clear up how it is used. So let's go ahead and get going. So first off, what exactly is the hyphen? It is a piece of punctuation, and when you are typing on your computer keyboard, it is that little sideways horizontal line to the right-hand side of the zero. You type the hyphen just by hitting that button. You do not hit Shift and then that button because that creates an underline or an underscore, but just simply hit that button once and that is a hyphen. Now this is not to be confused with the dash, which we will cover in other podcasts. So again, we are looking at the hyphen. So what does it do? It has a couple different jobs in English and some of the things that we'll be talking about in class. So the first thing, and probably the most obvious thing that a hyphen can do, is that it can signal a word's division at the end of a line. So back in the olden days when you were handwriting things or perhaps typing them, if you got to the end of a line and you weren't finished with a word, you could divide that word with a hyphen at the syllable break. For example, that was my neighbor. If the second syllable can't fit on that line, you can divide it at the syllable break with a hyphen. Now again, that's kind of old-fashioned because of the technology that we have today. We really don't need to use that use of the hyphen too much because the computers kind of shift our language and add spaces, subtract spaces in order for full words to be on each line. Another use of the hyphen is to join numbers showing a span. So if you are talking about how long a war was or how long somebody served as president, you could go ahead and separate those two numbers to show that they served from 1988 all the way to 1992. It shows a span of beginning and end. Another use of the hyphen is to join numbers in a vote or in a game score. So this isn't necessarily a span like the date was before. This is showing some sort of comparison. For example, Congress voted in a somewhat lopsided fashion 81-3 on the resolution. It's not a span. It doesn't go from 81 all the way down to 3 in some sort of decreasing algorithm. It just says that, hey, one side voted 81 votes yes, and the other voted 3 votes no. And so it's just a hyphen use to show this compared to this. We can also use the hyphen to form a word with the prefix of self or X. For example, please exercise some self-control at the candy store. Or that is his ex-wife. We use the hyphen to set up those prefixes, to set them aside a little bit so we can notice them. That it's not just control, like you're not controlling something else, you are exercising self-control. So it is pertaining back to that self, but we use the hyphen to set up the prefixes of self or X. This is the big one that we want you guys to know in terms of uses of the hyphen. We use the hyphen to make a compound adjective. And so again, grammatically, an adjective is a describing word. It describes a noun. Compound in grammar just means more than one at the same level. So there's two words that are working together to form one adjective. For example, I need to use my noise-canceling headphones. What kind of headphones? Noise-canceling. And since both of those words are working together as one adjective, we must join them with a hyphen. Next example, they had a long-term relationship. What kind of relationship? Long-term. They didn't say long relationship or a term relationship. The author wanted to describe that relationship as long-term, meaning many years. And so because it is a compound adjective, so two words working as one adjective, we join them with the hyphen. Another example, a fireproof vest helped Santa Claus. What kind of vest? Fireproof. Two words working together as one adjective, that's a compound adjective. They are joined with a hyphen. Now, if we're confused on whether we should or should not use the hyphen and we can't remember the rule, we can certainly rewrite the sentence so that that compound adjective scenario does not exist. For example, instead of saying, those are my noise-canceling headphones, so noise-canceling working together to describe headphones, we can rewrite this as a different structure that says, those headphones are noise-canceling. Now, noise canceling still describes headphones, but in this case it's used as a predicate adjective, meaning it's not right next to the noun it describes. Therefore, it is not a compound adjective in the same way. It does not get the hyphen. Their relationship is long-term. Long-term is still describing relationship, but it does not have the hyphen. Santa Claus's vest was fireproof. Same thing. Predicate adjective, you do not use the hyphen. Now here's an extreme example of a compound adjective that is legal to use in the grammatical sense. Again, compound just means more than one thing stuck together. Compound in grammar just means more than one. So if we wanted to write an extreme example about somebody's attitude, and we really wanted to describe what kind of attitude it was, we could write something like this. He had a terrible, I can't believe you think I'm going to do work attitude. What kind of attitude? A, I can't believe you think I'm going to do work type of attitude. You are stringing together all of these words in order to create one unit, one compound adjective, one adjective combined with all of these words together. One adjective that has combined all of these words together in order to describe it. It is a little extreme. It is a little unusual. It oftentimes comes across as comical, but it still follows the grammatical rule of if you have a compound adjective right before the noun it is describing, then all of those words are joined with the hyphen. Additionally, this is another important use the hyphen has. It helps reduce ambiguity, which is just confusion, and it helps increase clarity. So for example, what is the difference between these two sets of sentences? I need a hot water bottle, or I need a hot water bottle. The noun is bottle, so something that contains water. Now the first one, a hot water bottle, means that it is a noun, a bottle, that holds only hot water. So like that little red rubber thing up in the upper right. You can put steaming hot water in there, and that is the bottle that will contain hot water. The second example, I need a hot water bottle, sets up that I need just some random Nalgene bottle that is warm, which is a little strange, but maybe that's what you need. But if we want to be more specific and more clear and say that we need a specific device to hold hot water, we can link those two together with the hyphen. The next one, he is a small state senator, or he is a small state senator. A small state senator is a senator from a relatively small area, such as Maryland, Delaware, Rhode Island. He is the senator of a small state. In the second example, he is a small state senator, means that he is physically, as a person, tiny. Maybe he's very short. Therefore, he is a small state senator. But if we need to be more clear in saying, you know what, he's just a senator from a tiny state like Delaware, then we need to make small state more clear. Combine those with a hyphen, and we have ourselves a compound adjective that makes clarity more clear. And the last example, a violent weather conference with the hyphen, or a violent weather conference. The first one is a conference about violent weather. You're going to assume they're going to talk about things like tornadoes, hurricanes, typhoons, things like that, things that are violent weather. The second one, a violent weather conference, makes it sound like there are a bunch of weather people sitting around pointing to weather maps and fronts moving through, and then all of a sudden a fist fight breaks out. That weather conference has turned violent. Now maybe that's what you actually mean. More likely you mean a conference that talked about violent weather. So in order to increase clarity, we're going to create a compound adjective with violent weather by using the hyphen. We're going to link the words to put those together to show that it was a conference about violent weather. That is more clear than the other one, which just means a fight. So here is a slide of some practice opportunities. Go ahead and stop the podcast and see if you can properly place where the hyphens should be. So go ahead and stop the podcast now and test yourself. And here are the answers to those. So the first one, you can see we use a hyphen to show the span of when he was the president. The second one, we can use the hyphen to set up the prefix of X. The next one, we can use the hyphen to create a compound adjective. What kind of business was it? It was a fast-growing business, meaning that it is growing quickly. Next one, my great-grandmother said. We add a hyphen in there to show that she is a great-grandmother by relation, as opposed to great just meaning awesome. Be wary of the hair-raising movie. What kind of movie? Hair-raising. Compound adjective. Join those with a hyphen. I love chocolate-covered raisins. What kind of raisins? Chocolate-covered. Therefore, we make another compound adjective. And by doing that, it helps increase clarity. So that's about it in terms of the hyphen. Don't confuse this with the dash, which we will explain in a later podcast, but the hyphen has a couple basic functions and some more important ones. One, it helps us separate numbers in a span. It helps us set up prefixes like X and self and great, perhaps. It also helps us create compound adjectives, which can then also increase clarity. So we can group the words together that we need to be grouped in order to make our message clear. If you have any questions, please feel free to bring those into class. We'll get those answered for you. Otherwise, thanks so much for listening, and we will see you soon.